Can everyone see my screen? Just a little heads up. I'm hoping so. Yeah, then I will start my presentation on the topic of why AI is not going to replace all coders or software developers in general. This is a topic that's quite personal for me as well, since the emergence of the products of OpenAI like ChatGPT. Everyone is asking himself like, oh, is this still like a safe career to pursue or go into this field, or is AI going to replace myself anyways? Also a question I ask myself. So yeah, I'm happy to give you some thoughts on this and hopefully, yeah, encourage you to still pursue a career in software development. Yeah, few points about me. I'm Python software developer and also data engineer. I founded my own company called Plexify last year, and also hold a degree in business information systems. Recently or previously, I worked at Check24, the T24 Bank, or also the Dubai Future Foundation, and I'm really interested in topics like big data, cloud technologies, and also blockchain. But well, like the first question we should ask ourselves is, what are those large language models that are trying to replace us as software developers? So like LLM is like an AI model that is trained on a really large base of data and also broad variety of data that is there to serve like a broad range of requests that you can ask towards this this model. I'm pretty sure every one of you has tried it already and has made some experiences with it or has read about it in the past. But yeah, like the large language models and the algorithms that train it, they can draw their own conclusions from the data that it was provided to train the model, and also like the model is continuously improving, as you can see also with the GPT models. But the baseline, in my opinion, is that the model is only as sophisticated and smart as the training data it receives. So it might be that it has deep knowledge in one topic, but not so deep knowledge in the other topic. Or if the data is corrupted, it might even have like wrong conclusions on some topics. So like the usual use cases for those models nowadays are like a summarization of text. If you have like a question or you want to generate some marketing text or whatever, that's what those models are currently good at. Like the most famous ones, I already mentioned them, are GPT-3 or GPT-4, like the paid version of it, distributed by OpenAI, which you can access with the product ChatGPT. Yeah, and GPT-3 was already trained with 570 gigabyte of text data, which are like 175 billion parameters. GPT-4, the next generation model, has 1.76 trillion parameters, which is quite a lot. The cool thing for everyone who's interested in those models, like the large language models, they're not exclusively for companies like OpenAI, even though they are really expensive to train, but there are also models from, for example, the company Hugging Face, which every one of you can try out. They are of different sizes and shapes. So yeah, also a cool thing to try out sometime, I would say. Where do those LLMs get their data from? That's a really interesting question, which you might have also experienced in the recent weeks and months. Most of the LLMs, they take their data from like books that are digitalized, web pages, but also like the data and the feedback that you as a user give them and upload as part of the prompt. That's really important to keep in mind, and maybe something that's keeping a lot of companies at the moment from using it extensively. Yeah, now some companies like Reddit and Twitter, they realized that data from their platforms is especially valuable, since if you have already curated content and rated content that helps the model to see what are good answers and which are not, those data is getting really, really valuable. So some platforms already started to restrict the free access or the mass access to their data because they also want to earn their fair share of the pie. For example, recent example is Twitter that limited their access to their tweets, which made it almost unusable for the power users of Twitter. Also Reddit, there was a huge protest going on since they wanted to restrict the third-party API access to the platform. Also, there are a couple of lawsuits going on at the moment regarding copyright, where did the AI get their data from, and is it really like producing their own work or just copying stuff from others. And another quite funny example is, for example, Samsung. They banned the employees from using ChatGPT because they found out they uploaded some data to ChatGPT, and this data made their way into the training data and was spread across several prompts from other users that should not see the content. So that's something really important. Do not upload code from your company to ChatGPT in order to get an answer, because you never know what they will do with those data. Because as I mentioned before, the training is quite expensive regarding like the amounts of data that they are using. There's also a trend towards finding like more specialized training models that are like, for example, specialized on a certain use case or industry, because they are a bit cheaper to train and also like serve the purpose. For example, there are some developer assisting tools like GitHub Copilot, Hugging Face Starcoder, or OpenAI Codex, to name a few. And those tools are the ones that gave me some sleepless nights, because that's like the initial questions: are those tools going to be better software developers than we are? At the moment, they can be nice tools to help you up to speed up your development. They can implement tests for you, writing simple functions from a prompt, and especially for the programming language Python, there are quite some open source repositories out there, meaning a lot of training data, and therefore Python output at some point is quite good. For me, having a professional eye on it, there's still like things I would not do the same way, or that I would write differently, but I have to say it's already quite good. As you can see here, I have a little example. We could also like do it in a live session. Maybe we'll try to show you that. So 1 second, please. Let's see. We have a screen here. Okay, so let's say I want a really basic example. I have a list of numbers right here, and I want to add it up and then print like the sum of that list. So it's like a really simple example. It's like let's just start with it. So I have the list. Then I have like I do it in a really basic way to display you the capabilities of AI a little bit. So we have like the sum of the list, which is at the beginning it's 0. Then we have like the length of the list, which is like length of my list, and then for I in range 0 to the length of my list, I will just add those values up. And then in the end, I want to print out, wait. I want to print out the result of it. So like list plus list, and then we print it out like this. And go away. So now if we run it, did I do wrong? Typical example. Okay, that's just, I wanted to do it in a stupid way, but it was too basic. Let's do it like this. Should be working now. So the sum of the list is 15 now. So now you already had like the first example of what you could use ChatGPT for. Maybe if you have like an error, you could ask it, what did I do wrong? For us, this is not like the really ideal case. There are a lot of things that you could improve or do better in Python. And that's what you could also use ChatGPT for. So you could ask it, for example, what kinds of improvements could I do to my code? So let's just ask ChatGPT. I have this piece of code in Python. Then I paste it here and ask it, what could I improve? So pretty basic. And then it will go and ask and explain you a little bit also. So it might be quite useful if you're already learning Python. You could use it to improve your coding style. So what it suggested, instead of using like this range, so like a for loop, you could just use like the sum function, which is already implemented in Python. So yeah, let's just do it. For example, yeah, we could just copy it like this. So this is also an interesting thing. What it automatically did is it created an own function for the task that that you wanted to do, which is always a good thing to do, to not have too many lines of code like in your main function or in one function in general, but to really write functions for one specific use case, so you can in the end test it better and identify errors. So yeah, let's just put out the other improvements right here. And yeah, also like this. And let's see if it still works. It still works. Perfect. So what else could we do? Let's imagine we want to put this code into production. So like we want to really make sure that there cannot be any errors. So for example, if we are not quite aware what like the list is all about, so if there could be different values in it, like for example, a text and not only numbers, this at the moment it would fail because of this error. Like you cannot sum up numbers and text. So how can I make it better? Like I can provide it again with my list. Like I have my list and I am getting the error like unsupported operand types. And in most cases, ChatGPT should now know what to do and explain to you a little bit about it. And yeah, suggests you with a quite simple solution for it. And gives you the code. I will shortly explain it to you in a bit. So we have like, okay, here I would do things a little differently. I will just and let's for now let's just copy it like this. Maybe it will suggest us things better if we ask it again. So for now, I will just copy the code, and again, I will explain you what it does. So this is like a cool construct of Python, where you can create a list like this, and have the for loop inside of it, basically, with a condition. So what it does is it loops over the list here, and for every element that matches this if condition, it writes it into the new list and returns you like the so-called cleaned list of it. So every item X in this list that is of instance, so that has the type integer, so it's a number and not a string, it will make its way into the new cleaned or filtered list in the end. So yeah, and then we also have the sum again. So if we run it again, there should be sum of the list is 10 now. All right, so we already identified there can be some errors. So now I can ask ChatGPT, what can I do to make my code more production ready? So it suggests error handling, for example. It suggests documentation, and it also suggests testing, and a few other points. Let's see. So it's really a good source for learning. That's for sure. But you still need to know what you're doing. Now let's see. Can you improve my piece of code? So let's see what it suggests. Okay, now now we're coming to an interesting point of it. So it now it took the code it generated previously, it reverted it again and gave me another solution for the problem, which is putting it into an error handling sector, like if there's an error in adding up the elements because we have this text S in it, then it will just raise an error instead of like using the solution from before, which is just filtering those out. It now prefers not to give you an answer, but raising an error. So those are kind of two philosophies you could use. One would be, I want to provide a solution even though the import is not perfect. The other one would be telling the user that the import is not perfect and yeah, telling him to try again. This is not what I would prefer in this case, so I will ask it explicitly, what could I improve with this piece of code to make it production ready? Let's see what it does again. So sometimes you will need a couple of iterations, and for an experienced Python developer, it's always faster to do it yourself. Yeah. Keeps suggesting me stuff. Okay, now it's getting interesting. Okay. Let's see what we have here. Now I did another interesting thing right here. Yeah, I will just explain this all, and then we can go for the next part. That's probably enough to make the point here. So what it did now is it introduced typing, which is another concept in Python, since Python per se does not keep track of types like, for example, Java would do, but instead it yeah, finds out a type for you on runtime, which sometimes can lead to some confusion when reading the code or really understanding the structure. So using those typing hints is highly encouraged. So in this case, the input of this function is a list, and the output also is a list containing integers. So yeah, now here it tries to filter the list and only including elements that are still like a number, but it also put it into like an error handling try and except block, looking for type errors and then raising like a value error. Yeah, this one kind of is redundant, I would say. This one is quite interesting. So if you do not have any elements left in the list, then it just tells you the list is empty, basically. Yeah, also something that might be questionable if it's really necessary. But yeah, in the end, this should work. Yeah, it does work. But still, like, I'm not super happy with this solution. But yeah, more on that and how to improve this, I would say you would learn this in the Python class. What we can do now is also ask it to, can you write me some unit tests for this code? This is, I would say, like the most favorite feature of mine when it comes to AI, because no one likes writing tests. So let's see what the output is. Okay. So it provides me with a test case. And there the output is, yeah, it's quite good, I would say, because it also tells you how to run it. Really nice. Here, I would say what it did, it took one case where there's a fully functional list of 1 to 5. Then there is invalid input with one text in it, and there is also an empty input. So it, yeah, basically got the gist and took all the 3 major error cases we are having into account. So I think for unit testing, it's quite good. For the rest, okay, yeah, we can still do it in a better way or in a different way, and still improve the code a little bit. But yeah, so this is like the example I wanted to give, and now I will leave some comments on it. Let's resume with the presentation. Yeah, we are. So like in the end, I'm not quite sure. I hope the presentation will be available for you afterwards as well. I also gave a few steps on here, basically with the same example, so you can try it out on your own. So as you already saw in the live example, the large language models, especially like those co-pilots and coding assistants, they can improve efficiency and productivity for software developers, but AI isn't perfect. Since like there's also a lot of non-perfect code out there, and also the AI tries to make sense of it and generates it on its own, and sometimes maybe has really interesting ideas on what good code is. It's still really important to understand like what you're doing, and especially important to understand what actually needs to be achieved. So what are the requirements and the needs of the client you're working for, and what steps are required to really make it into a really good piece of software? Because software is not only lines of codes, but a lot of like talking, requirements, and understanding of the problem. Yeah, so it's also important to really understand like the details and the twists of the programming languages, like also the frameworks and architectures, to also be able not only to understand what the AI is giving you, but also knowing what you can ask in the end. So if you don't understand the problem, if you don't understand the programming language, if you don't understand what you're actually looking for, the chances are high that you are getting wrong results and you are not even able to know what you're doing wrong or how to improve it. So this is really important. Yeah, you should be still able to write your own code and stay up to date, because those models, they can also be a little bit outdated, or as I mentioned before, trained with imperfect code. So let's say there's a new update coming for the favorite framework of yours. For example, in Python, it can be Django or Fast API to write microservices or backend applications. And there's a new update, and there are some features that are now not longer supported in the newest version. The language model doesn't know about it because it's like trained a year ago, or even half a year ago. So then you will get some code, you paste it in your application, and it will fail, and you don't know why. So it's really important to stay up to date on your own and to understand what you are doing. Even more important it is to formulate the thoughts that you are having and the requirements and problems like into really writing the software and then the problem in the like in the proper way. Especially if you have like really complex tasks, which you first need to break down into simpler subtasks and yeah, like human understandable solutions, so to say. And yeah, this is something that an AI cannot do at the moment. And I'm pretty sure that those like thought processes are really complex, so it will take quite a while until it might be able to build such things. Also, if you're working with really old or specific pieces of software from your client that aren't well documented on the internet, how is an AI going to know how to talk to this? This requires really in-depth knowledge of yourself, and you spend a lot of hours finding your way with it, but that's like really knowledge that the AI cannot take from you. Also, sometimes the AI gave me wrong results, or I was kind of stuck in an endless loop. I was asking it, it gave me a solution, and I already knew this won't work. I asked it again, it gave me a different solution. I gave it an error message I received, and it was leading nowhere. And at some point, I got frustrated, and I just wrote it myself. So yeah, as I said a couple of times, it's a nice tool, but still nowhere from like being a real danger to you. Wait, let's put this aside. So like, what are the requirements, the most important things I would say that you still need to possess in order to be a software developer in the times of generative AI and co-pilots? So it's really important for you to listen, to like have the ability to abstract thinking and finding suitable solutions. So this is like the main job description, I would say, for a software developer. Then you should be able to formulate those problems into solutions. And still, as I mentioned, you need the knowledge and understanding and the ability to apply those skills on concepts of software development and programming languages. And also thinking out of the box, keeping an eye on the edge cases and potential sources of errors on your own. This is really important. And yeah, the modern software developer, he's far more than just a producer of lines of code, and yeah, in my opinion, cannot be replaced by an AI. Maybe the tasks will change a bit, but like especially like this human interaction kind of thing, you cannot take this away. This will always remain, even though maybe the AI might be able to write a little bit of code, but software developers are far more than that. And And that's, also why you should sign up for the Python developer class if you haven't done it already. I also saw that there are other courses like machine learning and AI, which is like an intermediary course, which you could also take, for example, after having the Python class. It's a really cool topic. Also like the DevOps class for all the ones that want to go into really professional software development. I can really recommend this. Also a hot topic at the moment. So maybe let's start with why you should be learning Python after all. Python is a really general purpose programming language. You can really use it for a lot, and I have used it already for a lot of different purposes in the past. So it can start as simple as data analysis. So you have like a set of statistical data for, let's say, your bachelor thesis, or I don't know, in your company, there's a set of data and you just want to analyze it, you want to clean it in order to make sense out of it. So even if you're working like in economics, you still can make use of Python and maybe speed up some tasks of yours. You can apply machine learning functionality to it to make some predictions maybe on the data that you're having. You can use it for web scraping. One of the primary languages for web scraping is also Python, but you also can even write web pages with it. You can do backend microservices. You can use it for your university career. You can use it for testing of other applications, for deploying and packaging software. You can use it for embedded systems and robotics. Also a really cool use case for game development. I was surprised when I was looking this up, but apparently even for that you can use Python. So no matter what you want to do, Python is like a cool toolkit to start, and it's also like a pretty easy language to start out with. As I mentioned, there are no types, so you can start with like messy code and improve and keep learning. So it's a really cool thing to do. And still, Python developers are in really high demand. I'm getting a lot of calls from agencies every now and then, and then I have to tell them that I'm not on the market, and they're like, do you know someone else? We really need them. And I have some colleagues that are mainly in Java, and the competition in the Java field is far higher than in the Python field. So Python developers are really in high demand, but there aren't so many available out there. So maybe that's also an interesting thought for you. I took the average salary for Germany for a junior Python developer, maybe also an interesting key figure, which apparently is 42,000 euros per year, which is not too bad. I'm pretty sure at the current markets, you can also achieve a little bit higher, maybe around 50, 55, depending on the city where you're at. But I would say that's quite good salary. Also, if you look up the jobs on LinkedIn, there are quite some jobs. Like there were 3,000 hits on the keyword Python developer, and 840 of it did match on the term junior Python developer. So that's quite a choice, I would say. Also, according to the Stack Overflow developer survey, Python is kind of the second most popular programming language between JavaScript and those two. I don't count HTML as a programming language, so that's why I said second highest ranked. But I would say if that's not an argument, what is? I brought some fun also to this presentation. Maybe some of you will get it. I will just leave it like there. Also, all of the data scientists, they are basically using Python for the job. There are some that are using R, of course, or SPSS, but Python is like the primary choice, I would say. Yeah.